Okay, welcome back to the AuthorSpeakerPodcast.org. AuthorSpeakerPodcast.org. Make sure you subscribe. Go to the website, AuthorSpeakerPodcast.org, and hit the subscribe button on the far right-hand side. Put your name and email, and we'll email you once a week with a new episode so you never miss an episode. If you don't want to miss an episode of the Author Speaker Podcast, I hope you don't anyway. So I'm Steve Siebold. I'll be your host again today, and I want to talk for a second about something that's such a big deal with in the new world, really, of marketing as a speaker and an author, and that's and as a coach, really, as well, and that's social media. Now, there's a lot out there on social media, and I am not a social media expert. I use social media. I've got a decent following on social media. There are people with a lot bigger social media following, and in the business, I mean, in our business. But there's one thing in particular, specifically, that I want to hit home with social media because it is such a big deal. Okay, and that's I want you to answer this question for yourself as a speaker, author, coach, someone that is in a position or is positioning him or herself to guide other people or organizations to the next level of success. In other words, we are not selling aluminum siding. There's nothing wrong with selling aluminum siding. It's a good product, or not wrong with selling anything for that matter. But we're not doing jobs. We're not paving roads. We are guiding people's lives. Sometimes entire organizations. I mean, I did turnarounds, as most of you know, if you've been on the podcast for a while, for 23 years with some of the biggest companies in the world. We turned around, low-performing divisions of sales teams in large companies like Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble and Microsoft and GlaxoSmithKline and Harris and Caterpillar and on and on. For 23 years to the tune of $1.3 billion in turnaround. So, I mean, I know something about that. And you are guiding, a company that's doing, $100 billion a year. You're guiding them to the next level of success sometimes. Or maybe you're a coach or an author and you're guiding your reader, you're guiding your student to the next level of success. So my point is, you're doing a job that has prestige. And the way you're presenting yourself on social media is critical. I mean, you see some of the crazy stuff, that I see on social media, right? I mean, we all see the crazy stuff. And I honestly, as pure entertainment, I really enjoy some of the crazy stuff. I got introduced to TikTok maybe 6 months ago. I'm a little slow up on the uptake on TikTok, but I haven't really engaged on TikTok as a speaker and author yet. I'm going to, but some of the videos on there are absolutely hysterical. I mean, it's just really funny stuff. But as a speaker, author, coach, do I want to put videos of my dog on or my cat or something crazy on TikTok? Probably not. Do I want to put something salacious on there? Probably not. Or any other platform? Probably not. When people Google you, when someone's going to hire you to speak, let's say, and you're up against some big speakers and you're charging $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a speech or whatever you're charging, and you have 200 people competing with you at a national convention or a regional convention, and they Google you to find out who you are, what are they going to see on your Facebook page? What are they going to see on Instagram? What are they going to see on TikTok? What are they going to see on all these different social media platforms? What they see is how they're going to judge you. When they Google you, what do they see? So I think it's great, when people say, well, you got to get engagement. You got to go on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all these, TikTok, all of them. And you got to get engagement because that's what the search engines look for. That's what the platforms look for is engagement. And the more engagement you get, the more people the algorithm directs you to. So you get more eyeballs, you get more people watching, listening, that kind of thing, which is great, which is true, and that's all great. But at the same time, be very, very careful what you're posting. You may get a boatload of eyeballs and people engaging. But how does it make you look to the buyer? I can tell you as a person, a national keynote speaker, speaking mostly, I spoke mostly in my 23-year career at national conventions. That's a lot more in Las Vegas. It's kind of funny, but Las Vegas seems to be the national convention, capital of the country here in America, in the U.S. And so I did mostly national conventions. So you're up against some of the smartest people, some of the best speakers out there, and they can hire anyone. They get down to the top 10 or 15, and everyone's a rock star. Everyone's really good. So they could hire anyone. They could never really make a mistake on the top ones. But you got to beat some of the best people out there. And if you let down in one area or another, you might lose a $20,000 speech, which could become a $2 million consulting program. Consulting contract. I mean, we made most of our money on the back end of the business, not in Keynote. We did, again, I've said this publicly many times, just to give people in the business an idea of what's possible at some level, that we did roughly in 23 years, about $16 million in Keynote speeches. But we made most of our money in the back end when we sold training and consulting contracts and coaching contracts on the back end of the Keynote speech. And so Keynotes are great, but the back end is really powerful. So you might say, if you lose a Keynote speech and you're charging, let's just say $10,000. So you lost it. You say, well, I lost $10,000. Oh, well, you got a back end program. You may have lost a 10-year contract with one of the biggest companies in the world. It might be a $10 million contract. You could have just cost yourself $10 million. So let's say you put something that doesn't make you look very good on social media, and I'm the economic buyer at Microsoft, and I go in and I just check. Well, I'm gonna check your social media, see, if there's something that might come up that could hurt us if we hire this person. And I see something that you're off on a rant about something or this or that, and I think, yeah, we don't really want any of that. We don't want any part of that at our company. That doesn't look good. You drunk on Saturday night doesn't really look very, very good. So your judgment really scares me. So I think I'm going to pass on you, even though you might be the best speaker. That's what you want to avoid. So what I would say is be very, very calculated in your postings when it comes to social media. I post typically TV interviews. I do a lot of television. I do typically 3 a week, 3 TV interviews a week. Radio, you can't really post too much radio, but anything online, interviews online, podcasts, whatever, I do that. This podcast, I post podcasts. We have 3 podcasts we do. We have a mental toughness podcast, which is my subject, and then my wife Dawn and I have a podcast called Success, Money, and Marriage. .com if you're interested. It's for couples that work together, that are married or cohabitating, and they're building a business together. It's funny. We clown around a lot and have some fun with it. But anyway, we have 3 podcasts. And so I post podcasts, and not all the time, but sometimes, because I'm thinking about the economic buyer who's probably a $400,000 or $500,000 a year executive in a huge multinational company. And I'm thinking, what are they seeing? Well, they see I'm doing podcasts. That's good. Okay. They see I'm on television. That's good. They see I'm being, interviewed by Forbes or Wall Street Journal or New York Times or whatever. That's good. I can post anything that's professional. Now, I'll post things about my dog, like a picture of my dogs, or we have a tennis court here at Bone Allen Mansion, and I play tennis a couple times a week on the court. And I might take a picture out in the court, at night and say, oh, we're playing tennis at Bone Allen Mansion, just some personal thing. And that's not going to hurt me. Okay. Things like that. But nothing that would ever give a buyer pause for hiring me. And I will tell you, I've had some social media people, and even recently, say, you shouldn't be posting all these television interviews, okay? Because that's not going to those are links. They have links back to your YouTube channel, my Steve on TV channel, which is my media channel. Steve, you can go see it if you like, steveontv.com. And it links back. So when you put a link on Facebook, they give you less, the algorithm, promotes you to less people. But see, I'm not going for the algorithm. What I'm going for is the economic buyer who Googles me and sees all my social media and goes to the page and sees me on TV. That's what I want to see, because that's money in my pocket. I don't care what Joe Blow lives 2 blocks down the street from me thinks about my TV interview, whether he sees it or not. I'm positioning myself for the economic buyer as a professional speaker. I don't care about, I'm not posting what I eat for lunch. You could do that if you want, but as a speaker, I think it's foolish. Be very, very careful what you put there, because everything you put down, it's like people going for jobs. I've hired roughly in our companies about 500 people over the years, but a lot of the years there was no social media. But now when we look at hiring people, or even when we look at taking on partners, in different places, we check their social media. We want to see what the hell they're putting out there. And if they're they're real angry, or they've got some criminal sort of angle to them, obviously, or anything that seems off, really off. I don't care what they do in their spare time, but I want to make sure that we're not getting in bed with someone, so to speak, that doesn't fit our value system as a company, or whatever company or organization we're hiring for. And of course, I'm not alone doing that. Any employer is going to do that. So you have to be very, very careful. But as a speaker, because keynote speakers are elevated with credibility. Keynote speakers are revered. There's no question in the speaking world. I know trainers don't like this, but I'm a trainer as well. Okay, so I've coached big companies. I've coached Olympic athletes, professional athletes for 10 years. I did that. So I think I have some right to say this. Keynote speakers are way more credible than trainers, workshop leaders, teachers, or any other form of speaking. Keynote speakers are the top of the top. They're usually the best speakers out there. Not always, but usually. But whether they're the best speakers or not, they have the most credibility, which is wonderful, right? You work a national convention, let's say there's 50 speakers. Well, then, you know this if you've worked in nationals before. If you haven't, then you'll learn this pretty quickly when you do. But when you work a national convention, let's say for Procter & Gamble or Johnson & Johnson or any other convention, that might be 50, 60, 70 speakers on the program. So there's usually a speakers meeting. Well, there's always a speakers meeting of some level. And you typically have to submit your slides, if you have slides, submit your script even sometimes, tell them what you're given outline. Usually they make you do that. And then there's a speakers meeting usually the day before the convention, where they tell you, look, you have to be on time. Here's where you have to be backstage. You get mic'd up 20 minutes before, whatever the rules of the convention are. And you have to be at the speakers meeting. If you don't show up at the speakers meeting, you don't speak. With the exception of one person. It doesn't have to show up at the speakers meeting. Does not have to submit the slides. Does not have to submit the outline or the bullet points. Guess who that speaker is? The keynote speaker. Doesn't have to submit anything. How do I know? Because I've been doing it for 23 years. I've never submitted. I can't ever, unless I'm missing maybe one or two, but 23 years, lots and lots of speeches, thousands. You don't have to submit. I go to the speakers meeting usually because I feel bad not going, and I kind of like to, see what they're saying, but I don't have to go. You usually walk in, they say, there's our keynote speaker right here. My point of this is the credibility is very, very high. Don't ruin it with what you post on social media. Be very, very careful. You're going to cost yourself a fortune. So I know people have all kinds of strategies about what to put on social media, and that's not my expertise. I'm learning, I'm doing it as much as I can, but at the same time, I'm just saying on the other side of the spectrum, be very careful what you post. It might end up costing you a lot of money. Do not tarnish your reputation as a speaker by posting stupid things on social media. Be very, very careful. And I'll wrap it with that, because I think that says it all. You're welcome to go see my social media, Google my name. And, again, that's really what it comes down to. We're in the Google world, right? Google owns the world. It seems like it. So what do you do when you meet someone? You Google them, okay? When I Google you, what do I find? You Google me and see what you find, okay? Use me as any speaker for that matter that you want to, and see if there's anything that might hurt me as a speaker. I don't think there's much out there that would hurt me. But what about you? Do you have anything out there that might hurt you? Be very careful. Okay, because we are living in the Google world, and Google knows all. Okay, with that, we'll wrap up. Make sure you subscribe again. Authorspeakerpodcast.org, not .com. We couldn't get .com. Authorspeakerpodcast.org. And subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and we'll send you an email every week with the new episode so you never miss another episode of our podcast. So with that, I'm Steve Siebold. Thanks for listening.